right, so the Portland Trailblazers lose 133-129. No Jeremy Grant in the lineup yesterday. The starting lineup was Toumani Camara, Denny Avdia, Donovan Clingan, Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Clingan only played 11 minutes of the game.
Foul trouble, and I knew coming into this game
Yep.
that this match was going to be nightmare fuel for him. Evan Mobley, I can't think of a guy who's a worse cover for him.
I went and I started looking this up, though, but when you took even Donovan out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you take that lineup and you have Ant, Shea, 2, Denny on the floor together,
mm-hmm.
especially when, again, Shaden Sharp cares about playing defense.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even have to be good at it. But just showing that care that Chauncey Billups has talked about at length.
The aggressiveness, yes.
The 5-man lineup of Ant, Shea, 2, Denny, and Clingan.
Mm-hmm.
They've played 7 games this year with that lineup on the floor. They have the highest plus-minus of any team or any combo of players that the Blazers have put on the floor. Think about that. Like
Bigger,
outside of like
stronger,
one-off,
longer, more athletic.
Outside of the one-off, garbage time lineups where they'd be like plus 10, they have had 59 5-man lineups that have played 4 or more games together this year. That lineup that started has played 7. They have the highest plus-minus of any of them this year. And that is a noticeable absence is Jeremy Grant from that.
The big part of that is not even Jeremy, the team was so bad in those first 20 games. All of that lineup data, while valuable, is like junky because they were so bad. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Ant started out awful. Scoot was horrendous. Shea was horrendous. Jeremy was horrendous. Denny was horrendous. Like it was bad.
But I think at the point of the season that we're in right now where those guys are not, you've got to sit there in that legitimate conversation of when do you start shutting down or having the thought we're going to shut down Jeremy Grant for the betterment of the development of the guys who are going to be here for the long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it looked different, even with Donovan Clingan getting into foul trouble, only playing 11 minutes and fouling out yesterday. It just looked like the aggressiveness on both ends of the floor from Denny Avdia, especially on the offensive end where he is afforded the leeway to get more shots and have more control offensively, and he drops 30, and that's not going to be every single game. We know that. I mean, you'd have to have your head in the sand to think that you're going to get that kind of production and that kind of game from Denny Avdia every single night. But you saw that there was a difference because you've talked about this a lot. Earning that long leash, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also earning the ball in your hand and that deferment. It just felt like it was better yesterday.
Yeah, no, look, following the game against the Wizards, Shaden kind of, against Brooklyn, he did post game, and I believe it was Casey Holdall that asked him, kind of what's been different, and it's Shaden. The thing he didn't say was what made me smile the most. When they asked, like, what are you doing different? What's different about things? He could have said, oh, I'm playing more. He didn't. Instead, he goes, I'm watching film more. I'm understanding more. Understanding lineups more. Understanding processing, what guys in teams are trying to do.
Yeah.
That is, like, everybody's like, you learn on the court. No, you don't. You learn the other stuff first. And I mentioned this story on Rip City Wrap-Up, so I'll say it here. In Shaden's rookie year, there was a veteran in the locker room, jokingly, but we were highlighting how little young players in the NBA actually know about personnel.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, Shea, name the starters for the Grizzlies. They were playing the Grizzlies the next night. And Shea goes, that J dude, Jaren Jackson, and the big dude with the muscles,
Steven Adams.
Desmond Bain.
Wait.
But yeah, and veteran looks at me, shrugs, and goes, you understand now?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like to make Shaden look bad. It wasn't to make young guys look bad. We were just talking about how little if you think about like guys going into high school players going into college, and remember, Shea didn't even play in college. The AAU circuit and the year-roundness of it and being so involved and making sure you get to your right school with NIL and all that kind of stuff. You know how many of these guys watch NBA basketball? It's very little. Yeah. Unless you're an absolute psychopath, you get done with your game and you get done with your classes, you go home and you make sure you turn on the TNT game or the ESPN game or whatever. You just don't have an actual like granular knowledge. Who was that
the other day? I mean, to that point, you know, it was a longtime vet in the NBA who's, you know, playing the veteran role. I can't remember who it was, but it was about Taj Gibson. Where they're like, these young guys don't know who Taj Gibson is. Yeah. Like they had no idea. They're like, that guy's dude strong. And he's like, well, yeah, you don't know who Taj Gibson is?
Yeah.
But they're older. They just don't know the lineups and what guys have to offer. And that comes with learning and becoming a professional.
He's unk. He's old head. You know what I mean? Like you don't understand like what tendencies are, what guys want to do, how they want to beat you. And Shaden was just like, there's just so much. And I was like, yeah, there it is. Like that's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like the raw talent, nobody's ever questioned the raw talent with Shaden Sharp. The guy didn't really play in high school because of COVID and didn't play in college. And then his rookie year comes in and does stuff. You go, oh, but the list of guys that are in the top 0.01% of talent in basketball, they're in the NBA. What separates guys is understanding and knowledge and how to go about your game. And you're seeing Shaden start to figure that out. We just went through this 2 months ago with Scoot Henderson. Just went through it. Almost the exact same thing of like understanding of what responsibilities actually are and living in that box of responsibility. You get more of it when you show you can handle this. And that is, I think, what you're seeing so much, the trickle-down effect of Denny and two. Those guys are getting more responsibility. They're getting more ownership because they're understanding it. They're reflecting it. They're doing the things that are being asked of them. And this whole thing like, Chauncey hates Scoot. He's a terrorist. Look what he's doing to Shaden. It's like, he's doing the right thing. I have said this from the jump. You can argue me until you're blue in the face. I absolutely, unequivocally agree with what Chauncey Billups is trying to do, particularly with those two young guys.
Yeah.
And I think you're starting to see it come together. Look, Shaden was 7 of 20 in this game. And I don't care. You know why? Because he got 20 shots up. And they weren't settling for 3 threes. He took 6 threes. There wasn't a 3 that he took that I was like, it's a bad shot. Because he was getting downhill. He was putting rim pressure. He was getting offensive rebounds and putbacks. He was getting contested defensive rebounds. Like, those are the things, that the intrinsic little things that show that he's in tune with the game. And I love it.
Here's the other thing, and something that you mentioned, and it was highlighted also by Tom Habistro, who came on with Dirt and Sprague earlier today. It is, you said there's an identity that Chauncey Billups has instilled with this team. And here's Tom Habistro had a pretty, jarring comment on where the Blazers are defensively when talking about Shaden Sharp in the move to say, Shaden, you're not going to be in the starting lineup. You're going to see your minutes go away if you don't care on the defensive end.
I want to set a culture of accountability, and Shaden Sharp didn't bring it in the last game defensively. And I want this whole team to see that what we're about defense, and we're going to get after the opponent, and we're going to hold each other accountable. Since that moment, since that move out of the starting lineup, the Blazers have had the second best defense in the NBA. In the NBA. This group, which is the second youngest team in the NBA, has the second best defense behind the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James.
Here is my question. And we've talked about this. We talked about it last year. Mm-hmm. We talked about it this year throughout the entirety of this season. Chauncey Billups is getting these guys to play hard. Mm-hmm. That's what the conversation used to be, right? They would still play hard. Were they good enough? No, they weren't. But they played hard every night. Now you're starting to see that what he has instilled in them is translating on the floor. Playing hard is now playing hard and skilled.
Yes.
And
it's smart.
It may only be on one end of the floor because it's a star-driven league, and you need a star to fill it up, okay? And that won't change with this team. But we've also talked about the fact that this is a lame duck year for Chauncey Billups. He does not have a contract heading into next season. this identity, if they don't bring Chauncey back, what does it do to what the young core is that you're gonna keep together? Because that's a legitimate question at this point of, all right, guys that are going to be a part of this future and you can feel very confident in it. Denny Avdia, Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan. And then you have Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, which are on the back end of that, pushing into, they're starting to earn that right now. A lot to be determined on that, though. But you have 3, okay? 4 and 5 or more of question marks. Can they continue?
Promising, but still
it?
heading that way. And real quick on the lineup data you were talking about. So the Ant 2, Denny, Clingan, that foursome has played 275 possessions in total this season. You can swap out Shaden or Jeremy or Scoot, depending on in different positions. But those 4 have played together for 275 possessions. They are in the 99th percentile in differential at plus 22.9. They are in the 100th percentile defensively at a 92.3 defensive rating. That is absurd. They are in the 100th percentile in effective field goal percentage allowed at 42.7. They are in the 97th percentile in forcing turnovers. They are in the 69th, offensive rebound percentile. The only thing that they lag in, they're in the 8th percentile in free throw rate because they are fouling. Why? Because they were physical. And I know everybody wants to talk about Anthony Simons and how bad of a defender he is. If you are watching games like, he gets picked on. It's not that he's not trying or not in the right spots or not doing what he needs to do. He just weighs 195 pounds, so the 245-pound wing is going to bully him.
And that is an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
But the reason he is out there is because he's in the right spots, making the right rotations, doing the right things, which allows everyone else to be in the right spots in rotations.
And what does this say about the voice that is, in all likelihood, it's going to be changing next year?
I would be very surprised if Chauncey Billups was back. I do think he has made a case that he could return. But I think at this point in time, that die has already been cast.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. He's in a lame duck year. Yeah, absolutely.
Because typically in this situation, if you're entering the last year of your contract, if the team wants to pick you up, they will pick you up before that last year of the contract.
Yes. That's why we don't get them very often. But, and I've mentioned this before, Chauncey Billups could have rolled over and coasted through a lame duck year. And period point blank, he has told me, it's not how I'm built, man. I can't do that. And I'm not going to stand by and watch these kids throw away their careers or what they could be because I'm going to get in my feelings about a contract.
I'll tell you what.
Or you could be a cynic like myself and say that Chauncey Billups is coaching for his next job.
Absolutely. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
So, I'm just saying. Because it's not going to be here.
No. But I will caution this. All those numbers that you said are fantastic. You get a change of voice. You get a change of style. It ain't going to be the same.
It's going to be different.
It will be different.
But the accountability part of it, I think that's something they're going to search out in these guys. Whoever the head coach is going forward.
Whoever that may be.
It's going to have a certain voice.
Okay.